The wedding
You look
invitation
absolutely
arrived
stunning,
in
my
a
love.
crimson envelope.
I feel like the
Marcus's
luckiest woman
elegant
alive.
handwriting
What a
mocking
beautiful
her
couple.
from expensive cardstock. 6 months after he'd shattered her heart for a socialite's fortune, he wanted Elena to watch him say, "I do." She should burn it. She should forget him. Instead, she made a deal with the most dangerous man in the city, a stranger whose dark eyes promised both salvation and ruin. Lorenzo De Luca didn't just offer to escort her to that wedding. He offered to rewrite her entire story. But power always has a price, and Elena was about to learn exactly what hers would be. Follow this story to the end, hit that like button, and comment your city below so I can see how far Elena's journey reaches across the world. The diner's neon sign flickered against the rain-slicked windows, casting pink and blue shadows across the empty booths. Elena Carter wiped down the counter for the third time that hour, her movements automatic, her mind anywhere but the present. The clock read 11:47 p.m. 13 minutes until her shift ended. 13 minutes until she could go home to her cramped studio apartment and pretend she wasn't drowning. The crimson envelope sat in her purse like a live coal, burning through leather and lining straight into her chest. Marcus and Vivian request the honor of your presence. She'd read those words so many times the elegant script had burned into her retinas. 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, she was supposed to watch the man she'd loved for 4 years marry someone else. Someone richer, someone better connected, someone who hadn't wasted her 20s working double shifts while he built his career on her unwavering support. The bell above the door chimed, pulling Elena from her thoughts. She looked up, ready to deliver her practiced smile, but the words died on her lips. The man who entered didn't belong in Eddie's all-night diner. Everything about him screamed wealth and power, from the perfectly tailored black suit that probably cost more than her annual rent, to the way he moved with the fluid confidence of someone who'd never questioned his place in the world. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. But it was his eyes that stopped her breath. Dark as midnight, sharp as broken glass, missing nothing. Those eyes found hers across the empty diner and held. "We're about to close," Elena said, hating how her voice wavered. She cleared her throat. "But I can get you something quick if—" "Coffee. Black." His voice was deep, textured with an accent she couldn't quite place. Italian, maybe. He slid onto a stool directly in front of her, those penetrating eyes never leaving her face. "And whatever's troubling you." Elena's hand froze on the coffee pot. "Excuse me?" "You've wiped that same spot on the counter 17 times in the last 2 minutes." He tilted his head slightly, studying her like she was a puzzle he intended to solve. "Either you have obsessive-compulsive tendencies, or something's eating at you. Given the redness around your eyes, and the way you keep glancing at your purse, I'd guess the latter." Heat flooded Elena's cheeks. That's really none of your business." "No," he agreed, accepting the coffee cup she set down with more force than necessary. "But I'm making it my business. Call it curiosity, call it a slow night, call it whatever you like." He took a sip, maintaining eye contact. "You're in pain. I can see it from across the room. So tell me, what bastard broke your heart?" The question, asked so bluntly by a complete stranger, should have offended her, should have made her throw him out despite the expensive suit and the dangerous air of authority that clung to him like cologne. Instead, something inside her cracked. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the way he looked at her, really looked at her, not through her the way most people did. Maybe it was simply that she'd been holding everything in for so long that the pressure had finally exceeded her capacity to contain it. "His name is Marcus," she heard herself say. "And he didn't just break my heart. Her voice caught. She gripped the edge of the counter, steadying herself. "He calculated exactly how much he could take from me before trading up." The stranger's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those dark eyes. Interest, perhaps, or recognition. "Tell me," he said simply. And Elena did. The words poured out of her like water from a broken dam. She told him about meeting Marcus in college, about how he'd been charming and ambitious, full of dreams about the future they'd build together. She told him about the years she'd worked herself to exhaustion, paying their rent while he finished law school, believing in him when his own family had written him off. She told him about the small ways she'd sacrificed, the art classes she'd abandoned, the career opportunities she'd declined because they would have required moving away from his internship, his networking events, his carefully constructed path to success. "I thought we were a team," Elena said, her knuckles white around the coffee pot she'd forgotten she was holding. "I thought I was investing in our future." But the moment he made partner at Crawford and Associates, the moment he started mingling with the old money crowd, she laughed, a broken sound. "I became an inconvenience, a reminder of where he came from, someone who didn't fit the image he was trying to project." "So he left you." The stranger's voice was soft, but there was an edge to it now, something cold and sharp. 3 weeks before our 5th anniversary. Elena set down the coffee pot before she could drop it. No explanation, no conversation, just a text message saying it wasn't working anymore. I came home from a double shift and half his things were already gone. The next day, his Facebook status said, "In a relationship." 2 weeks after that, I saw the engagement announcement in the society pages. Vivian Ashford, daughter of Judge Ashford, granddaughter of the Ashford real estate empire. Everything I could never be. And the invitation? Elena's hand moved involuntarily to her purse. Arrived yesterday. Crimson envelope, gold lettering, Marcus's handwriting on the address. He wants me there, front and center, watching him marry someone better. Why would he do that? To prove he won. The words tasted like ash. To make absolutely certain I know my place. Or maybe... She met the stranger's eyes, surprised by the understanding she found there. Maybe he wants to erase any guilt he might feel by confirming I'm fine, that I've moved on, that our years together were just a stepping stone for both of us, not just him. Silence settled between them, broken only by the hum of the fluorescent lights and the distant sound of rain against the windows. The stranger drank his coffee slowly, methodically, his gaze never leaving Elena's face. She should feel uncomfortable under such intense scrutiny. Instead, she felt seen in a way she hadn't experienced in months, maybe years. "What's your name?" he asked finally. "Elena. Elena Carter." "Elena?" He said it slowly, as if tasting the syllables. "Beautiful name. Strong. It suits you better than you realize." He set down his cup with deliberate precision. "I'm Lorenzo De Luca." The name meant nothing to Elena, but she saw something flicker across his face when she didn't react. Surprise, perhaps, or approval. "Well, Elena Carter, you have a decision to make." Lorenzo leaned forward slightly, his attention absolute and unwavering. "You can throw away that invitation, nurse your wounds, and let Marcus Hale believe he broke you. Or," he paused, letting the word hang in the air between them, "you can walk into that wedding on the arm of someone who makes him realize exactly what he threw away. Someone who makes everyone in that room question whether he made the biggest mistake of his life." Elena's heart stuttered. "I don't have anyone like that. I don't—" "You do now." Lorenzo's smile was slight but devastating. "If you want." "I don't understand." Elena shook her head, trying to clear the fog of confusion. "You don't even know me. Why would you—" "Let's just say I have a particular distaste for men who use people as stepping stones." Something dark moved behind Lorenzo's eyes, there and gone in an instant. "And I have a weakness for helping people reclaim their power from those who stole it." "This is insane." Elena laughed, but it came out breathless. "You're a complete stranger. I can't just—" "Can't you?" Lorenzo stood, pulling a card from his inside jacket pocket. He placed it on the counter between them, his fingers brushing hers for just a moment. The touch sent electricity racing up her arm. "My number. Call me tomorrow, after you've had time to think. If you decide you want to walk into that wedding with your head held high, with every person in that room wondering how Marcus could have been stupid enough to let you go, call me. I'll make it happen." Elena stared at the card. Heavy stock, embossed lettering, a phone number, and nothing else. No company name, no title, just Lorenzo De Luca and 10 digits that felt like a doorway to another world. "And if I don't call?" "Then you don't call." Lorenzo's shrug was elegant, unconcerned. "You go back to wiping down this counter, Marcus marries his socialite, and life continues exactly as it has been. Safe, predictable, small." He buttoned his suit jacket with practiced ease. "But somehow, Elena, I don't think you want small anymore. I think you're tired of making yourself invisible so other people can shine." He moved toward the door, then paused, looking back at her over his shoulder. 3 weeks, he said. That's not much time to transform a life, but I've done more with less. His smile was sharp enough to cut. The question is, are you brave enough to let me? The bell chimed as he left, and suddenly the diner felt impossibly empty. Elena looked down at the card in her hand, then at the crimson envelope peeking out of her purse. She didn't sleep that night. The morning came too bright, too loud, too real. Elena sat at her kitchen table, really a folding card table with a chipped corner, staring at Lorenzo's business card. In the harsh light of day, last night felt like a fever dream. Mysterious stranger appears, offers to escort her to her ex's wedding, promises to make her the center of attention. Things like that didn't happen in real life, especially not to broke waitresses living in studio apartments where the radiator clanked and the neighbors screamed at all hours. She had to work the lunch shift. She had bills to pay. She had a life, small as it was, that didn't include mysterious men in $1,000 suits making impossible offers. Elena picked up the card, intending to throw it away. Instead, she found herself dialing. He answered on the second ring. Elena. No hello, no questioning lilt. Just her name, spoken like he'd been expecting her call, like he knew she wouldn't be able to resist. This is crazy, she said. Yes. Lorenzo's voice was warm with amusement. But you called anyway. I don't know why. I do. She could hear the smile in his voice. You're exhausted from being underestimated. You're furious that someone took the best years of your loyalty and traded them for social status. And somewhere beneath the hurt and the anger, you're curious about who you could be if someone actually invested in you the way you've invested in everyone else. Elena closed her eyes. You don't know me well enough to... I know enough. I know you've been making yourself smaller for years, dimming your light so Marcus could shine brighter. I know you gave up your dreams, art, wasn't it, to fund his. I know you're terrified that maybe he was right. Maybe you are just the girl from nowhere, destined to stay there. Stop, her voice cracked. No. Because here's what Marcus doesn't know, what you've forgotten. You were never small, Elena. You were just surrounded by people too threatened by your potential to let you bloom. Lorenzo's tone shifted, became businesslike. I'm sending a car to your address in 1 hour. It will bring you to me. We have 3 weeks to prepare, and I don't waste time. Prepare for what exactly? For war, Elena. Beautiful, devastating, absolutely unforgivable war. The satisfaction in his voice was palpable. Marcus wanted you at his wedding to prove his superiority. Instead, you're going to walk in there and prove something far more important, that he never deserved you in the first place. I have to work. I can't just... You're taking a 3-week leave of absence, paid. Before she could protest, Lorenzo continued. I've already arranged it with your manager. Eddie sends his regards and says to knock 'em dead, whatever that means. Elena's mouth fell open. How did you... I'm very thorough, Elena. It's served me well over the years. Papers rustled in the background. The car will arrive at 10 a.m. Wear something comfortable. We have a lot of work to do. Lorenzo, I can't let you... You're not letting me do anything. I'm choosing to help you because it suits me to do so. Because men like Marcus Hale disgust me. Because I see potential in you that he was too blind and selfish to nurture. His voice softened slightly. And because I think you deserve to know what it feels like to be someone's priority instead of their stepping stone. The line went dead. Elena sat in her kitchen, phone still pressed to her ear, heart hammering against her ribs. This was insane. This was reckless. This was the most alive she'd felt in 6 months. She looked at the clock. 9:07 a.m. 53 minutes until the car arrived. 53 minutes to decide if she was brave enough to step through the door Lorenzo had opened. Elena stood, walked to her closet, and started getting ready. The car was a black Mercedes S-Class with windows tinted dark enough to hide secrets. The driver, an older man with silver hair and kind eyes, introduced himself as Thomas and said nothing else during the 30-minute drive through the city. Elena watched familiar streets give way to unfamiliar ones. Warehouses and apartment buildings replaced by tree-lined avenues and buildings that wore their history like expensive jewelry. They pulled up to a building that looked like it had been transplanted from a European capital, all stone facade and wrought iron balconies, elegant and imposing. Thomas opened her door, gave her an encouraging nod, and gestured to the entrance where a doorman waited. "Ms. Carter," the doorman said, as if her arrival was not only expected but significant. "Mr. DeLuca is waiting for you in the penthouse, top floor." The elevator was all mirrors and dark wood, rising so smoothly Elena barely felt the movement. When the doors opened, they revealed not a hallway but a private foyer with a single door, already open. Lorenzo stood in the doorway, somehow even more imposing than he'd been in the diner. He'd traded the suit for dark slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms marked with what looked like old scars. His hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it, and the effect was somehow more dangerous than the polished perfection of last night. "You came," he said. "I'm probably insane." "Probably." Lorenzo stepped aside, gesturing for her to enter. "But sanity is overrated, especially when seeking revenge." "I'm not—" Elena stopped, caught by the view. Lorenzo's apartment was massive, all floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furnishings that managed to be both luxurious and comfortable, art on the walls that even her untrained eye recognized as valuable. "This isn't about revenge." "Isn't it?" Lorenzo moved to a bar cart, poured 2 glasses of what looked like expensive scotch, even though it wasn't yet 11 in the morning. He handed her one. "Then what is it about?" Elena took the glass, stared into the amber liquid. "Proving I'm not broken." "Ah." Lorenzo touched his glass to hers, the crystal singing. "That's just revenge by another name. Healthier, perhaps. More honest. But revenge nonetheless." He took a sip, watching her over the rim. "And there's nothing wrong with that. Marcus broke something in you. I'm going to help you rebuild it into something he can't touch." "Why?" The question burst out of her. "You still haven't explained why you're doing this. What do you get out of it?" Lorenzo was quiet for a long moment, his gaze distant, focused on something only he could see. When he spoke, his voice was softer than she'd heard it yet. 5 years ago, someone I cared about very much was destroyed by a man not unlike Marcus. Someone who used her, drained her of everything valuable, and discarded her when someone better came along." His jaw tightened. "I was too late to help her. By the time I understood what was happening, she'd already—" He stopped, shook his head. "Let's just say she couldn't find her way back to herself." "I'm sorry," Elena whispered. "Don't be. Just let me help you. Consider it penance, if you like. Or opportunity. Or simply a wealthy man's whim." Lorenzo set down his glass with decisive precision. "The why doesn't matter as much as the what. And what I'm offering is this: 3 weeks of my time, my resources, and my expertise to transform you into someone Marcus will regret losing for the rest of his privileged life." Elena should walk away. Every rational instinct screamed that this was too much, too fast, too dangerous. But when she looked at Lorenzo, really looked at him, she saw something beyond the wealth and the power. She saw recognition, someone who understood what it meant to be underestimated. Someone who knew the particular rage of watching people you'd helped forget you existed. "What do I have to do?" she asked. Lorenzo's smile was sharp and satisfied. "Everything I say, exactly as I say it. For 3 weeks, you trust me completely. You don't question, you don't hesitate, you don't second guess." He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive that made her pulse quicken. "I'm going to rebuild you, Elena. Not change you. The foundation is already perfect. But we're going to strip away all the apologizing, all the self-doubt, all the ways you've learned to make yourself small. When we're done, you'll walk into that wedding like you own it, because you will." Do you trust me?" It was an insane question. She'd known him less than 24 hours. She knew nothing about him except that he was wealthy, perceptive, and apparently had the power to arrange leave from her job with a phone call. Trusting him was absurd. "Yes," Elena heard herself say. "Good." Lorenzo pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. "We start now. I've arranged for a full team to meet us here. Stylist, personal shopper, image consultant. By tonight, you'll look like someone Marcus would have to mortgage his soul to afford. By the end of the week, you'll carry yourself like you know it. And by the time we walk into that wedding, you'll believe it." "Lorenzo, this is too much. I can't—" "Stop." His voice was sharp but not unkind. That's the first thing we're eliminating. I can't. It's too much. I don't deserve this. Every self-deprecating phrase you've used as armor for years, they're gone. Starting now, you speak about yourself the way I see you, as someone valuable, powerful, worth investing in. Elena opened her mouth to protest, caught herself, closed it again. Lorenzo noticed and nodded approvingly. Quick learner, I like that. He gestured to the sofa. Sit. Tell me about the wedding. Every detail you know. Guest list, venue, schedule, anything Marcus might have mentioned before he became the world's biggest fool. As Elena settled onto the luxurious sofa and began describing what she knew about Marcus's upcoming nuptials, she felt something unfamiliar unfurling in her chest. Not quite hope. That felt too fragile, too easily crushed, but something close to it, something that felt like possibility. Lorenzo listened with absolute attention, asking pointed questions, making notes on his phone, building what Elena realized was a strategy. He approached her revenge, because that's what this was, regardless of what she wanted to call it, like a military campaign. Every detail mattered. Every advantage would be leveraged. The reception is at the Grandview Estate, Elena said. Marcus always wanted to get married there, said it was where all the important people held their events. It is. Lorenzo's expression was unreadable. I know the owner well. Consider that handled. What do you mean handled? I mean that by the time we arrive, every person of consequence at that wedding will know exactly who I am. And when they see you with me, Lorenzo leaned back, supremely confident. Marcus will understand he didn't just lose you. He lost his chance at the only real thing he'll ever have. A knock at the door interrupted them. Lorenzo rose smoothly, answering it to reveal 4 people carrying garment bags, equipment cases, and portfolios. They entered with the efficiency of a practice team, barely pausing before transforming Lorenzo's living room into what looked like a high-end salon. Elena, Lorenzo said, gesturing to a woman with sharp features and kind eyes. This is Simone. She's going to handle your styling. Simone, this is Elena Carter. She's going to a wedding in 3 weeks and needs to look like she could buy and sell the groom before breakfast. Simone's smile was fierce. I love this kind of challenge. For the next 6 hours, Elena was measured, photographed, questioned, and analyzed. Simone asked about her coloring, her preferences, her lifestyle. A man named Julian examined her hair, talking about angles and highlights and bone structure while running his fingers through her admittedly neglected locks. A woman called herself simply V studied Elena's skin, her face, her features, murmuring about enhancement versus transformation. Through it all, Lorenzo watched, occasionally offering input, but mostly observing with those dark, penetrating eyes. Elena should have felt self-conscious. Instead, she felt seen. Really, truly seen, perhaps for the first time in years. She has excellent bone structure, Julian said, tilting Elena's face toward the light. Hidden under this style, but excellent. High cheekbones, strong jaw. We can work with this. Her coloring is extraordinary, V added, mixing something in a small palette. That skin tone, those eyes. She's been hiding herself, deliberately, I think. Not hiding, Lorenzo said quietly. Dimming. There's a difference. Elena met his eyes across the room. Something passed between them, an understanding that went beyond words. He did see her, saw exactly what she had been doing, how she'd learned to make herself less threatening, less vibrant, less everything so that Marcus could shine brighter, no more. What do you want? Simone asked, settling beside Elena on the sofa. Not what Marcus wanted, not what anyone else thinks you should be. What do you want to look like when you walk into that wedding? Elena thought about it, really thought about it. I want to look like someone who never needed him, someone who was always this valuable, this powerful, someone he was lucky to have, not the other way around. Simone's smile widened. Perfect. Give me 3 weeks and I'll make sure everyone in that room knows it. The day blurred into evening. Garment bags accumulated, each containing pieces Simone promised would change her life. Julian scheduled her for appointments throughout the coming weeks, talking about color and cut and bringing out her natural beauty. V sent her home with a skincare routine that included more steps than Elena knew existed. As the team packed up to leave, Lorenzo walked Elena to the elevator. Tomorrow, he said. We start the real work. Posture, presence, how you move through a room, how to make people see you the way I see you. And how's that? Elena asked, surprised by her own boldness. Lorenzo studied her face, his expression unreadable. When he spoke, his voice was soft but certain, like someone worth going to war for. The elevator doors closed on his words, and Elena rode down alone, her reflection multiplying in the mirrors. For the first time in 6 months, she looked at herself and saw potential instead of failure. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lorenzo. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we begin transforming potential into power. Elena smiled. Then she texted back, I'm ready. And for the first time since Marcus had walked out of her life, she meant it. The next morning arrived with Thomas at her door at precisely 7 a.m., holding a coffee that probably cost more than her usual breakfast, and looking completely unsurprised when Elena answered in the outfit Simone had left for her, tailored black pants that actually fit, a cream silk blouse that felt like water against her skin, and shoes that somehow made her stand taller without the torture of stilettos. Mr. DeLuca is expecting you, Thomas said, his tone suggesting this early morning pickup would become routine. Elena had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Lorenzo's face, heard his voice promising to transform her into someone Marcus would regret losing. Part of her still couldn't believe this was happening. The other part, the part that had watched Marcus walk away without a backward glance, was ready to burn down the world. The penthouse looked different in morning light, less intimidating somehow. Lorenzo stood by the windows, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian to someone who seemed to be protesting whatever he was saying. He gestured sharply, cutting off the conversation, then noticed Elena and smiled. Punctual, he said, pocketing his phone. I appreciate that. Marcus was always late, wasn't he? Elena blinked, surprised. How did you? You mentioned it yesterday. Said he kept you waiting at restaurants, parties, your own birthday dinner? Lorenzo crossed to her, studying her with the same intensity he'd shown in the diner. People who are chronically late are sending a message. Their time is more valuable than yours. We're going to teach you that your time is priceless. He led her to the dining area where breakfast waited. Fresh fruit, perfectly cooked eggs, bread that smelled like it had been baked that morning. Elena's usual breakfast was coffee and whatever she could grab between shifts. Eat, Lorenzo said, pouring her coffee from a French press. You'll need your strength. Today we work on presence. Presence? How you enter a room, how you hold yourself. The difference between apologizing for existing and commanding attention. He settled across from her, his own plate barely touched. Right now you move through the world like you're trying not to be noticed. We're going to reverse that. Elena took a bite of eggs, perfectly seasoned, and almost moaned. I don't know if I can... She caught herself, remembering his rule. I mean, I've never been good at being the center of attention. That's because you were taught it was safer to be invisible. Growing up, was it better to be noticed or overlooked? The question landed like a punch. Elena set down her fork, memories flooding back. Overlooked. My mom worked 3 jobs. My dad left when I was 6. Being noticed usually meant being a burden. So you learn to be small, to need less, to take up less space. Lorenzo's voice was gentle but firm. And Marcus exploited that. He needed someone who wouldn't challenge him, who'd support his ambitions without developing her own. You were perfect for him precisely because you'd been trained not to shine. That's not... Elena stopped, the protest dying in her throat. Because it was true. She'd chosen Marcus partly because he'd seemed so confident, so sure of his path, and she'd had no idea what hers should be. Supporting him had felt easier than figuring out her own dreams. I'm not judging, Lorenzo said. I'm identifying the pattern so we can break it. By the time we walk into that wedding, you won't just look different. You'll carry yourself differently. Move differently. When you enter a room, people will notice, and you'll let them. After breakfast, Lorenzo transformed the spacious living room into a training ground. He moved furniture aside, creating a clear path from one end to the other. Walk to the windows, he said. Elena did, self-conscious under his scrutiny. Again, but this time, imagine you own everything in this room. The art on the walls, the view, the very air. Walk like someone who's never questioned